We're just constantly swimming in advice these days, aren't we?
Oh, definitely. Everywhere you look.
Yeah, like quick online tips for instant happiness, productivity hacks,
Mhm.
or just, those background cultural ideas about how life should be.
Yeah, the assumptions we don't even notice sometimes.
And we often grab onto these easy-sounding ideas, don't we,
Yeah.
without really asking, wait, where did this come from? Does it actually hold water?
It's a really good point. I think we like immediate answers, things that seem to fix a problem right now.
Right, quick fixes.
They feel true because, well, you can see how they'd fit into your life right away. But like the essay we're looking at points out, we hardly ever stop to think about the deeper roots or, the long-term effects of the ideas we adopt.
Exactly. And the essay sort of warns that if our whole philosophy is just following instructions without asking questions, we might end up serving things that don't actually serve us.
Like consumerism or maybe our ego's demands or just someone else's idea of a good life.
So this deep dive is based on an essay called Seven Zen Principles and How to Apply Them to Modern Life.
Mhm.
And it offers a really different angle.
A very different perspective, yeah.
And our goal today, really, is to unpack these principles. The essay makes this key point right at the start. Zen, okay, that comes from Buddhism, but here, it's presented purely as the art of self-awareness.
Hmm. Not religious dogma.
Not about telling you what to believe or exactly how to act. It's more about encouraging consciousness.
Right. It's about fully sort of diving into your own experience. And the essay argues these principles are universal because they focus on that core human awareness. They can apply to anyone, basically.
Whatever your specific beliefs or lifestyle.
Exactly.
So we're exploring these, ancient insights to see how they might offer a more conscious way through modern life, focusing, like the essay does, on that self-awareness piece.
Precisely. Let's see what's here for us.
Okay, let's unpack this then. First principle. It gets right to the heart of how we perceive things.
It does. It states, your experience is constructed by your mind.
This idea, you find echoes of it in really old traditions like Yogacara.
Mm-hmm.
It suggests reality isn't just like hitting us directly. Our mind is actively building it.
And the crucial thing for modern life, the essay points out, is challenging that common belief that we can't control our thoughts.
Yeah, they just happen to us.
Exactly. But this principle says, well, maybe we actually have quite a bit of say in where we put our mental energy. We can choose our focus.
Wow. That's powerful, isn't it?
Yeah.
It suggests that not every bad feeling or, negative thought needs endless digging to find some final resolution.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes the best thing is just to consciously shift your focus, redirect.
So if you ever feel like totally overwhelmed by what's going on inside your head,
Yeah.
this principle kind of offers a different viewpoint. You might have more power than you think to shape your day-to-day experience just by choosing what you engage with in your mind.
It suggests a level of agency we maybe don't always feel we have.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, though. Connecting this to our idea of who we are, identity.
Ah, yes. Principle number 2. Your concept of self is an illusion and a construct.
So the essay describes who you are, not as this solid, fixed thing, but more like an essence, an energy.
Mm-hmm. Something fluid.
Which is maybe why it feels so hard to pin down sometimes. It's deeper than just labels like job or parent or even our regular habits.
And the essay hits on a very modern issue here. How much we build our sense of self based on how we think others see us.
Oh, yeah. Like, am I seen as smart or successful or kind?
Exactly. And a lot of our internal wrestling, according to this view, comes from trying to manage that external image, that ego self.
Trying to fit into the box we believe exists in other people's minds, which then tells us how we have to be.
Right. But the essay suggests that really getting this idea means you understand you can play out the illusion of those roles. Be a parent, be a worker, an artist, fully engage without being controlled by that identity. You're the awareness that's watching and participating in those roles.
You're not just the role.
You're not just the role. You're the being experiencing it.
Okay, let's connect this to the bigger picture then, like beliefs versus inner truth.
That brings us neatly to principle 3. You need not believe in anything. You only need to follow what feels true in the moment.
That feels like a big challenge to, rigid systems.
Yeah.
The essay argues that just blindly sticking to a set of beliefs, some external dogma, often means you're valuing someone else's rules over your own inner knowing.
And that can create real internal conflict, can it? That split between what your head says is right based on the rules and what your gut, your intuition feels is true.
Yeah, that tension. The essay is pretty direct. If you're not living by what feels true for you, you're not following your highest good, as it puts it.
So this principle is really an invitation, isn't it? To let yourself grow, to think and feel beyond maybe what your current beliefs allow. It's encouraging trust in that internal compass, that gut feeling, as your main guide.
Trusting yourself more than the external rules.
So basically, yes.
Now, what's fascinating here is how this links straight to happiness.
It does. Principle 4. The ultimate path to happiness is non-attachment.
Okay, but the essay is really careful here to say this isn't the usual modern idea of non-attachment, like just not caring about stuff.
No, not apathy at all. It frames it much more simply, actually, as the basic understanding that all things serve you.
All things, even the bad stuff.
Especially the bad stuff, in a way. From this view, tough experiences aren't just obstacles, they're teachers.
How so?
Well, they show you where you need to heal, what needs attention. And that process, that healing, actually opens you up more to the good stuff. It's just seeing how all experiences weave into your growth.
That's a very different way of looking at it.
It is. In a world obsessed with hitting targets and measuring success by outcomes.
Yeah.
This offers a totally different path to peace. Happiness comes more from trusting the process, seeing the lesson in everything, rather than desperately clinging to only the outcomes you want.
Less clinging, more trusting the flow.
Something like that, yeah. Trusting the unfolding.
This definitely brings up a big question, though, about how we spend our time and define ourselves by it.
Which leads perfectly into principle number 5. Doing is not as important as simply being.
Okay, being. The essay mentions practices like the art of doing nothing, like just sitting, resting.
Exactly, as a powerful way into meditative states.
How does doing nothing achieve something?
Well, the idea is that this stillness quiets the constant mental noise, right? And that allows things that need your awareness, maybe things needing healing, to just bubble up naturally.
Ah. Okay.
And importantly, it connects you back to yourself, the core you, separate from all the roles and tasks and responsibilities that make up your doing identity.
And the essay puts it very bluntly. You are not what you do, you simply are.
Which is quite radical in our culture.
It really is. So beyond just formal meditation, this really underlines how vital it is to carve out time just to relax, recover, be. Separate from being productive.
It challenges that deep-seated modern idea that our worth is basically tied to our accomplishments.
It suggests we have value just existing.
Inherent value, yes. Simply in being.
Okay, let's unpack that a bit more. How does this idea of being relate back to our thoughts? We talked about thoughts earlier.
Right, it connects back beautifully. That leads into principle number 6. You can be an objective observer of your mind and your life.
So it builds on the first principle, that we can choose our focus.
Yes.
But this goes further. It says we can actually decide which thoughts we value by watching them from like a distance.
Exactly. Like you're a third-party viewer watching your own thoughts and feelings parade by.
This sounds like mindfulness meditation practice.
Very much so. Guided meditation often teaches this skill, watching thoughts come and go without grabbing onto them or judging them.
And the point of doing that, according to the essay, is this huge realization that you are not those thoughts. You are not your feelings.
Precisely. You are the fundamental being that has thoughts and feelings. You experience them.
You're the container, not the contents.
That's a good way to put it. And from that observer place, you gain the power to choose which thoughts you give energy to, which feelings you act on. It gives you a kind of separation and more control over your inner world.
More mastery over the internal landscape.
A sense of agency there, too.
What's really fascinating here is where all of this seems to be pointing. The ultimate destination, maybe.
Which brings us to the final principle, number 7. Your natural state is oneness.
Oneness. The essay presents this idea that the ultimate reality, the deep down truth, is that everything is one.
Yeah, it calls this the basis of enlightenment.
And if that's true, then suffering. It isn't inherent. It comes from the illusion of separateness.
That's the perspective. That feeling of being isolated and separate, while very real in our experience, is seen as an illusion covering up a deeper unity.
So the essay suggests that while we live our individual lives, kind of playing out the ideas of individualism, That's the learning ground.
Right. It's where we learn and grow. But our fundamental nature and where we eventually return is to unification, oneness.
That really shifts the perspective on connection, doesn't it? On shared
It
experience.
totally does. It suggests that feeling alone, separate, while it's a powerful part of being human, it's not our deepest truth.
Okay, so let's just zoom out a bit from our deep dive today. We've touched on these 7 principles. The mind-creating experience, the self as a construct, trusting inner truth, happiness through non-attachment, valuing being over doing, observing the mind objectively, and this ultimate idea of oneness.
It's quite a journey through these ideas.
It really is. And just to circle back to the essay's starting point, Zen, in this context, is presented as a practical tool. It's about self-awareness.
Right. Not rigid rules. These principles are offered as universal ways to engage more consciously, maybe more peacefully, with your own life.
So for you listening, maybe reflect on which of these principles really struck a chord today, or perhaps felt the most challenging.
Yeah, which one resonated?
And maybe think about how exploring just that one idea might shift things for you, your perspective, your daily experience.
And the essay leaves us with this really potent final thought. Suffering comes from the illusion of separateness.
Right.
So if your deepest natural state, this ultimate reality, is actually oneness, what does that change? How does that change how you see yourself?
And if you see yourself differently, how does that change how you interact with the world, with other people?
What does it really mean in that light to play out the ideas of individualism, knowing that underneath there's unity?
Definitely something worth sitting with.